Knowing exactly how you can take advantage of different landscape photography lighting situations is an essential part in developing your photography skills. And in this video I will talk about how you can use the colors of light to level up your photography. Hi, I'm Kim from Landscape to Art, and I'm here to help you improve your landscape photography, focusing on developing your skills as a photographer and less on the gear you use. And if this is the first time you're on this channel, make sure to click the subscribe button. Light is extremely important in landscape photography, and most photographers already know that. But light is not just light. Light has different properties, and light can change dramatically in short amount of time and also throughout the day. But when you understand and take advantage of the properties of the light, you can dramatically change the atmosphere and mood in your landscape photos. When I started photography, I must admit I didn't even give light any attention at all. I just took all my photos, or most of my photos, during midday light, when the light was harsh and the colors neutral. But of course I learned that the most colorful light doesn't happen during the middle of the day. So let's jump right in. To get the most out of light and the colors of the light, it's important to understand at which times of the day the best color are likely to happen. What's considered being good light is of course subjective, but it's a fact that most landscape photographers find the time around sunrise and sunset to be the best. And this is not difficult to understand, because the colors that can appear around these times are magic and can be really beautiful. And you have probably heard about Twilight, but not necessarily connecting this to photography. The time when the night transitions into day and day into night is what we call twilight. And it's during twilight you can experience the most colorful photography light. And we can divide twilight into 3 stages. And the length of the twilight depends on the time of the year and where in the world you are photographing. But more about that later. Let me use morning twilight as an example. It's exactly the same at evening twilight, but of course in the opposite order. And it starts with the nighttime. And when at nighttime the sun is more than minus 18 degrees below the horizon. And at this time the sky is just pitch black. And of course that's a good time for astrophotography, but not so good for general landscape photography. And the first stage of twilight is astronomical twilight. And now the sun is between minus 18 to minus 12 degrees below the horizon. And during astronomical twilight, the sky transitions from totally black to darkish blue. And it's still dark enough for astrophotography. The second stage of twilight is the nautical twilight. And now the sun is between minus 12 and minus 6 degrees below the horizon. At this time the horizon slowly becomes visible, but details in the landscape appear as silhouettes. The sky in the eastern sky slowly starts to lighten up. And the third stage of morning twilight is the civil twilight. Civil twilight is the time between the sun is minus 6 degrees below the horizon and until sunrise. And during the first stage of civil twilight, the sky has the typical cobalt blue color, and that's why it's got its name, the blue hour. The sky gets even more brighter, and you will start to distinguish objects in the landscape. As the sun rises above the horizon, all objects become clearly defined. During the end of the morning civil twilight, the sky and the clouds are dominated by the warmer colors like yellow, red or orange. And that's the reason they got the name the golden hours. And if there are clouds in the sky, they can quickly change colors from everything from pink to red to orange. And the golden hour is of course the favorite time for a lot of landscape photographers. When the sun finally rises, the landscape turns into a deeper orange color, which is also a very nice time for photography. And the last few minutes after sunrise is the end of the morning golden hour. As the sun continues to rise, the colors of the light shifts from yellowish to a white, more neutral color. So now let's take a look at more details about the blue hour and the golden hour. The blue hour is the phase when the sun is so far below the horizon that the atmosphere only scatters the shortwave blue light. And technically the blue hour is the first minutes of morning civil twilight, when the sun is between -6 and -4 degrees below the horizon. The blue hour light is kind of mysterious and it's perceived as cold. The blue light creates a special mood in landscape photographs and it's attractive. I love photographing during the blue hour and it's probably one of my favorite times for photography. But there is one downside, and that's you have to get out of bed extremely early or you have to stay out late. Preferably you should arrive at the location while it's still dark. But setting up a good composition when it's totally dark can be really difficult. The best is if you have the possibility to scout the area and try different compositions during daytime. This will make it so much easier for you when you are back at night. The blue hour lasts nowhere as long as an hour, so you have to work effectively. And it's also depending on where in the world you are. The blue hour lasts at maximum of 20 to 40 minutes. The closer you are to the equator line, the shorter the blue hour becomes, and sometimes it's barely 5 to 10 minutes. And above the Arctic Circle, close to where I live, there is no blue hour at all during midsummer, whereas during the winter the light is more or less bluish from early afternoon until early morning. This is an image I took in Northern Ireland at the end of the golden hour, in the afternoon. And unfortunately it was cloudy and we didn't get the nice colorful sunset we had hoped for. The light is slightly blue already, but there are still a lot of details in the foreground and the rocks. And this is the same scene photographed about 15-20 minutes later. And now the image has this typical blue hour color, the cobalt blue color, which I like. It's really nice. And the lights from the lighthouse contrast nicely with the blue color in the sky. And at this point there is less details in the rocks. Technically it's not difficult to photograph during the blue hour. As there is no direct sunlight or shadows, the contrast is low. So it's not much of a problem to get the exposure right. But because it's almost dark, you must use a tripod to stabilize your camera. And you will probably have to focus manually as well because of the limited light. And unless you are saving your files as RAW file, you must remember to set the white balance to anything but auto. And I recommend daylight setting. With the auto white balance, the camera will try to neutralize the colors, and which is not what you want, of course. The blue hour is also a great time for cityscape photography. The artificial yellow light from the buildings complements the blue light extremely well, and it creates a visually compelling images. And then let's talk about the golden hour. So technically the golden hour occurs when the sun is between -4 degrees below the horizon and until the sun is 6 degrees above the horizon. And the golden hour is part of the civil twilight. And now because the light has to travel a longer distance through the atmosphere, the shortwave blue light is just filtered away. And this results in the warm orange-yellow colors which give name to the golden hour. The orange and magenta colors become more intense and can fill the entire sky with magical light and colors. The light is still soft and diffused with little contrast and is perfect for landscape photography. The most beautiful light and colors often occur just before the sun becomes visible. At first the light is soft with no direction because the atmosphere acts like a diffuser. Clouds, and in particular higher clouds, can take up all kinds of colors from red to purple pink colors. And in this image here the clouds have orange, red, pink colors, and it's taken at sunset as well. And I like the way the clouds are reflected in the water here in the foreground. As the sun reaches above the horizon, the light becomes directional and shadows will be longer. The sun also brings out textures in the landscape. So this gives you a lot of opportunities. In this image here, the low afternoon sun creates beautiful shadows on the hillsides. The light is soft and golden. During winter, the golden hours is longer in the northern and southern hemispheres. And the golden hour can last as long as 5 to 6 hours if you photograph above the Arctic Circle. But in most areas around the world, the golden hour lasts only for 30-40 minutes, so it's quite a short time. There are several apps available for your smartphone which you can use to calculate exactly the times for both the blue hour and the golden hour. And my favorite app is the PhotoPill app, which I use a lot when I'm planning my landscape shoots. But no matter how well you plan, you have no guarantee you will experience amazing light, even if you are at the right spot at the right time. So, because everything in landscape photography is depending on the weather conditions. So, therefore it's important to also check the weather forecast before you go. And then we have daytime light. And whenever the sun is more than 6 degrees above the horizon line, it's defined as daytime. I know the light has no color, it looks like it's more neutral to the eyes. And at noon, when the sun is at its brightest, photographing can be really challenging. And it's probably the worst time for photography due to the harsh shadows and the high contrast. But sometimes we really don't have any other options than photograph at this time. Even with the bad reputation this type of light has among landscape photographers, you should not really totally avoid it. Midday light can work well for landscape photography as well. You should just look for opportunities, reflections and shadows and smaller details, doing micro landscapes. I hope you found these tips valuable and that it has inspired you to go out and photograph both the blue hour and the golden hours. And if your landscape photos up till now have lacked punch and colors, you know why. Professional photographers take most of their photos during the golden hours. So it's not a secret, but it takes some extra efforts if you want to create the best possible landscape photograph. And thank you so much for watching this video, and if you have any comments and questions, post them in the comment section below. And until next time, goodbye, ha det bra.